We have been dependent on fossil fuels for the longest time, and the negative impact they are having on the environment means that we are starting to look for better sources of energy, for example, renewable sources of energy. So this video is going to be a comparison guide for different types of energy, the advantages and disadvantages they have on the environment. So let's get started. So let's first talk about fossil fuels. Most of the energy in the UK is produced by fossil fuels, mainly natural gas, but fossil fuels are obviously coal, oil and natural gas. They are chemical sources of energy which have a very high power input and are used for transport, heating and electricity generation. Fossil fuels are burnt to boil water, which then turns into steam. The steam rises above the turbines, which causes them to spin, which then causes the generator to spin, which is how we get electricity from fossil fuels. But as we know, fossil fuels have a very negative impact on the environment because of the very high levels of CO2 that are emitted when they are burnt, which is obviously a very big contributor to global warming. The reason why fossil fuels are so widely used is because they are readily available and they are easy to produce energy from. However, as we know, fossil fuels are non-renewable sources of energy, so that means that to continue to use them is increasing fuel costs, and also lots of harmful toxic gases are being emitted into the air, for example carbon dioxide as well as sulfur dioxide, which when burnt can cause acid rain. The other type of energy that is so widely used in the UK is nuclear. 22% of the energy in the UK comes from nuclear fission. Nuclear energy is used for electricity generation and has a very high power input. Nuclear energy is generated in a nuclear power station using fission reactors powered by uranium fuel. This also does have a very negative environmental impact because this method produces a lot of radioactive waste. Now, the advantages of nuclear fuel is that it doesn't produce any carbon dioxide, sulfur dioxide, and also 1 kilogram of uranium fuel produces millions of times more energy than 1 kilogram of coal, for example. However, this is also a non-renewable source of energy, and this method is very hazardous to the environment because of how much radioactive waste it produces. For example, there's a very high danger of releasing radioactive materials into the environment with nuclear fuel. As well as this, it is also very expensive to commission and decommission nuclear power stations. But in terms of renewable source of energy, there is of course biofuel, which is also another chemical store of energy and is used for transportation, electricity. There are two ways to get energy from biofuel. There's biodiesel, which is from plant oils, and then bioethanol, which is produced from fermenting sugar and wheat. The power input of biofuels have been defined as medium, and their environmental impact is found to be carbon neutral. The advantages of biofuels are of course that they are a renewable source of energy and therefore reduce our reliance on fossil fuels. As well as this, they emit fewer carbon emissions. This is because they release as much carbon as they absorb through growth. However, the carbon status of biofuels doesn't take into account the production methods used. For example, tractors and other machinery used, which would have themselves a carbon footprint. So it's difficult to define whether or not they truly are carbon neutral for that reason. Other disadvantages of biofuels are that they are very labour intensive, and they also can use a lot of land which could instead be used for growing food, for example. As well as this, bioethanol cannot be used in vehicles without first modifying the engine. Other renewable sources of energy include wind energy, which is used for electricity generation and has a very low power input. The energy store of wind energy is kinetic, and in terms of its environmental impact, it has been found to use up a lot of land. Of course, the advantages of wind energy is that it's a renewable source of energy. It is also cheap to run and no polluting gases are produced. However, the disadvantages of wind energy are that they are expensive to build and they can be very noisy, and also it depends on the strength of the wind. Also, in doing some research on this, I found that wind energy tends to be marked down for visual pollution in terms of the fact that it's like an eyesore or doesn't look very nice in the environment. However, everyone I asked disagreed, and I also disagree with this. I don't think that modern wind turbines are necessarily do necessarily negatively affect the view, but if you think that they do, let me know, because I'd love to find someone who actually thinks they negatively impact the view, because everyone I've asked, and have done has suggested that actually they're quite nice to look at. So I don't know. In terms of the energy we get from water, there are three types. There's hydroelectric, tidal, and also water waves. In terms of hydroelectric energy, that is a gravitational store of energy that has a medium power input and is used for electricity generation. The impact of hydroelectric energy is that it tends to negatively affect local habitats. With regards to tidal energy, that is a kinetic store of energy which is used also for electricity generation and has potentially high power input. But in terms of the impact on the environment, it can often block sewage from getting to the sea. In terms of water waves, that is also used for electricity generation and is also a kinetic store of energy. The power input of water waves is low, and also the environmental impact of water waves is very low. The advantages of water energy is that, of course, they are renewable source of energy. They are also cheap to run and no polluting gases are produced. Additionally, they are a very reliable source of energy and can be switched on when needed. However, the disadvantages of water energy are that they can damage estuary habitats as well as damaging valleys via flooding. They can also block access to ports for ships, and also when they trap vegetations, they can end up rotting, which can produce greenhouse gases such as methane. So that's basically just a comparison guide of different types of energy, how they can be used, what they can be used for, and all the advantages and disadvantages of using them, how they are potentially negatively or positively impacting the environment. Thanks for watching.